woman.
Wow. Hey, Woman Without Limits. If you didn't watch last week with Apostle Isi, you better just get on there fast before you get onto this one. Because, man, the story is absolutely powerful. It's amazing. This is Woman Without Limits.
Anyway, yeah, man. Sitting with the one I thought was the one. Somehow that whole conversation, my whole spirit, he's getting calls and he's saying, yes, so my people will be there at 6. No, your people would. I said, my people
now.
Your people.
Hey.
So I said to
and
him,
you're thinking my people shall be your people.
What
is this?
So I said, this my people, your people. I said, sounding like introduction, wedding plans. I was like, what is going on? Are you getting married? Hey, this our brother started shouting, what do you mean by my getting married? You just got into Nigeria? You asking me for getting married? I said, it's not that serious.
No.
It's a simple yes or no.
Yes.
And besides, it's not like we're in a relationship of any sort. Even though in my mind, Sha has seen our wedding day.
Yes, now.
So that's how he was like, look, I just looked at it. I said, Holy Spirit, is this what you wanted me to see?
It is well.
So I said, please, I'm going home.
Yes.
I got home. As soon as I got home, I ran to my mother. I fell on her. I was crying. I was really crying. My mother said, what is it? What happened? What happened? My darling, it's okay. What happened? I said, Mommy, who is getting married? I told her the guy's name. She was like, I said, Mommy, what is it now? She said, have I not told you before that's not your husband? How that one you've been liking him since? Did I not tell you? I said, Mommy, I beg, please leave me. You are not your prophets. I'll be telling you things, please. She said, I've told you that's not your husband. I said, Mommy, but I love. She said, I beg, forget love. I beg you go forget them tomorrow. And I said, okay, Mommy. She now said, see, I beg. She took her phone, she dialed somebody. She said, talk to Bobby. I said, who is Bobby? She said, that guy now, that one you met at the wedding. I said, which guy? Look, in my mind.
It had the rest.
She said, the one you gave my number, he called now, we talked. I like him, talk to him. I was like, Mommy, how could you? She said, my friend talked to him. That's how she gave me phone. No? I was like, hello. He was like, hey, hi, how you doing? I was like, what is he? Lady Bishop. This is how I talked to this Uncle Bobby. And I now started telling him how somebody has broken my heart. He said, it's okay, don't worry, you'll be fine. I'm here.
Yes.
I said, please, I beg, who are you?
Yeah, who are you to be here? Yeah.
By the time my mother left the next day for Benin, I told her, I said, please, Mommy, that guy, don't give him my number. Yeah. She said, hey, so what should I do now? I said, Mommy, I beg, I don't like him.
Don't give me,
please, I beg.
Don't give him my number.
No, I don't talk to him. I was like somebody that was at party. I even saw him dancing. I was like, me, that have done crusades. I have, I said, Mommy, God forbid.
Yes.
My mother went to Benin. Apparently, this Bobby kept calling her. So one day my mother called me like 3 days later. She said, Isi, please, let me give him your number. Before your father will think I have one small boyfriend that is calling me every day. She said, he's calling me every day. Asking me, how are you? So what's going on? Do you people need anything? So I said, okay, give him my number. Lady Bishop, she did not just give him my number. She gave him our house address. So by the time he was calling me, he was like, hello, this is Bobby. I'm in front of your house. I was like, what is going on? So I was like,
Bobby
please.
was not going to waste any time.
So I said, please don't come in. I'm going to come outside and meet you outside. So I went outside, sat in the car, and I was like, yes, what is it? And he said, okay, I realize you don't like me. He said, but...
he even said that?
Yes, he said, but I need you to know that I'm going to marry you. And I was like, you say what? He said, you're going to be my wife. He said... And he said, I'm going to marry you. I said, my blood was boiling. I said, you're going to do what?
Marry who?
Marry who? He said, yes. He said, from the moment I saw you walk into that wedding venue, I knew you were the one. He said, before I left, I prayed. I told God I wanted to meet my wife. And when you walked in, God said to me, that's the one. He said, and, from the things your mother has told me about you, he said, I went back to my journals I looked at everything I wrote, down to the fact that I wanted to marry a geologist. I wanted to marry somebody we could do oil and gas together and still do ministry together. He was like, every single thing that I told God, you meet it, you're beautiful, you're this. I was like, so I'm going to marry you. And he was just like very
cool
very
about
cool,
it.
confident.
Yeah, he has already dealt with God.
Yes. Me, I was the one shaking and shouting. So I was like, God forbid, it's not going to happen. Do I look like one of those Lagos girls that you think that just because you say marriage, I'm going to walk with you? Don't ever come. I walked out, the guy slammed the door, walked out. I was like, nonsense. Lady Bishop, this man.
Go look for your type.
Look, I was like, nonsense. Me that I've been cultivating myself in the Lord to marry a mighty man of God. Yes, with my debt. I mean, what are we talking about? So, Bobby did not let me rest. Though. Hi. This guy would call me like 10 times a day. And I remember I'll tell my friends in Ghana, I'm like, I don't even like his voice. I don't even like the way he talks. Yeah. I don't even like, can you imagine? He's just doing classes. Look at the things he's telling me they're teaching him in church. Things I learned
when I was small.
By 7 months later, 7 months later, of talking to him like every day, but still saying, no, he can't be the one. I was preparing a sermon I was going to preach that morning. And I heard the Lord say to me, are you ever going to ask me about Bobby? Because I never prayed about it. Never talked to him.
You were completely...
I was like, nah, he's just good enough friend for company, but can never be my husband, you know. And he was kind of like different for me, very rough around the edges, very like, you know, hustler. My husband made himself. He didn't come from the kind of background I came from, you know. So sometimes the way I'm very much like process, system, planning. He's like, no, we'll just we'll go run and we'll find a way. You know. So I'm like, you know, so he could be my friend. He was my friend, but I was just like, no. And God said, are you ever going to ask me about Bobby? And I said, okay. Is he the one? And the Lord said to me, you get to choose. Do you like him? Do you want to marry him? And I said, I'm not sure, Lord. He was like, well, whatever you decide, know that I will go with you. I'm your God. I will always be with you. He said, and if your axe head ever falls into the water, I'll be there to bring it out. He said, the choice is yours. And after that moment, I was like, I'm going to marry this guy.
Are you serious?
You know, I thought of all the things that he was very responsible.
Yeah.
Very responsible. He took care of his whole family. He was very giving. Like while I was in school, even though I didn't need anything from him, he would say, okay, do you have this? Do you have that? Are you sorted? From Nigeria, he would buy things and send to me. I'm like, I don't need it. Like, I have everything. He's like, no. He's like, no, I'm going to be your husband. I have to take care of you. I'm like, you are not my husband. You will not be my husband. He's like, yeah, keep talking. You know, and all of that.
He would do it still.
Yes. Every month he would send me an allowance. I was like, I don't need your money. Like, they give me thousands of dollars to go to school. I don't want your money. He's like, no, but you're going to take it. He's like, because I'm going to be your husband. I have to start taking care of you. You know, and he was very kind, very present, you know, or anything that I needed to sort out, he wanted to sort it out for me. His love language is acts of service, you know, and then he would listen to my many, I like to talk, I like to process, just be on the phone and be listening to my many conversations, you know. I knew he didn't quite understand everything about my world, but he loved my world. He loved that I was a minister. He loved I was a pastor. He loved this woman who followed God. And he wanted to be part of that story. And he wanted to strengthen that story, you know. And I thought to myself,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had grown to like him at that point.
So after 7 months, you said, okay.
Yeah.
So did you tell him, yes, fine?
Yeah, so I called him. I called him that morning and I said, hey, how you doing? He was like, oh, I'm on my way to church. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Just wanted to let you know that, yes, I'm going to marry. Okay, I'll marry
be your wife.
He was like, sorry, what did you say? I said, yeah, I'll be your wife. was like, let me call you back. Let me call you right back.
Yeah.
And he calls me back like 10 minutes. I was like, sorry, what did you say? Like, what? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, yes, like yes.
Like yes.
So you.
Yeah.
I said, yeah.
Is it YES?
Yes, yeah. I was like, my God. He's panicking.
Yeah.
I was like, calm down. Yes. So he's like, okay, so when you come home for December, let's go see your parents. My parents, I was like, please, uncle, we're
Let's
not
walk.
even dated as far as I'm concerned. Like, he was like, but we've been talking for 7 months. I was like, yeah, as my friend.
Yes.
So when I went home for Christmas, I got to meet his sisters. He came to my house. And mind you, from when I first met him till that time, we hadn't seen again physically. So those 7 months I was in Ghana.
Yeah.
So then I started getting to know him, and then I went back to Ghana, came back again like that. And then 2 years after that, we're married.
And he's still Bobby. His name is Bobby.
His name is Bobby. Bobby Adolphus Igenegba.
So what does Adolphus mean?
Do I even know? I don't even know what Adolphus means.
Okay.
It's an English
But
name.
Igenegba is...
Yes, Igenegba means where strong men are guarded.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Igenegba.
Wow.
Yes.
And then your journey began.
Yes.
Now tell me about your marriage journey.
So when I realized that we're going to get married, I left Ghana and I went back to Nigeria.
Yeah.
And we got married. I think I was 26 when we got married, or 25.
Yeah.
Just getting to
Turning
26.
to 26.
Yes.
Yeah. Was it your age as well?
No, he was 6 years older than me.
Okay.
But the thing about him was he got matured faster, because he kind of like he trained himself through university.
Yeah.
He put himself through, like he became matured very early in life.
He was very responsible.
Very responsible.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my husband is super responsible.
Wow.
If I must say so.
Wow.
Like, sometimes it's annoying because it's like everything has to be. He's, from the day the children vacate in school, he's paid the next term school fees. He's like,
wow.
From January, he's like, where are we going for summer? Where are we going for Christmas? Can we do this on time? Can we do that? Like, I've never had a day where it's a case of there's no light in my house, or there's no fuel in my car, or there's no car for me to drive.
He has done it all.
Everything.
Before time.
Oh, yes. My husband is super responsible.
Wow.
Super
That's
responsible.
amazing. I hope he's watching and just saying, I got a wife.
Yes.
Wow.
When it comes to stuff like that, I have nothing to worry about.
Really?
I don't even think about it. I don't think about it.
Yeah.
If I have to be in the car and buy fuel, it's strange to me.
Yeah.
Because
it's done.
Yes, I don't even know what the cost of fuel is in Nigeria. That's Bobby.
Bobby has done it all.
Oh, yes.
That one that you're saying now, call someone else.
No.
Now you're like, you could never exchange him for anything.
No. When people say things, some ladies are like, oh, my car, the mechanic. I was like, I have never spoken to a mechanic. I've never had to have that interaction. Oh, I'm looking for a driver. I've never had to look for a driver myself. Stuff like that, nothing.
That's amazing.
Oh, yes. So I had to fight for my kitchen because left to my husband, he will go, on Saturday, he will go and buy tomatoes in bulk, buy meat, buy this, buy that. I'm like, Bobby, you don't know what I need. You don't know how I need it. Can you let me do my thing myself?
At least leave the kitchen to me.
Yes. So that's my husband.
That's amazing. That must give you so much joy.
Yes, it does. And it has really helped me in ministry. It helped me. And in the times when I struggled, so after school, I worked with the oil and gas company full time. And after that, the company left Nigeria, British Gas. And then I had to go back and I'm looking for jobs. And my husband is like, why are you doing that? He's like, just do ministry. I'm like, no. He said, but I met you as a minister of the gospel. Why are you trying to work? He's like, I'll take care of you. And
that's
like,
amazing.
No, I need to do. I went to school, I started, my brain is this, I have to, And he's like, you're just wasting your time. What is one you're doing?
Yeah.
Like, just ministry first. When
ministry.
you settle in ministry, you will see how God will, reward you and how you would be able to build your businesses.
Right.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
Then after like a year of trying, a church that I was now in Lagos, his church that I then started attending, I then become a leader in the church. They needed to hire a chief administrator. So there was a space and he was like, just go do it. So I went and I did it. And of course, the pay was nothing compared to what I really needed for my life.
Right.
And so he's like, you see, I will carry you. You will never lack anything.
Don't worry about,
Just do, And so that was basically how my marriage played into my ministry. But it doesn't mean marriage was easy.
Talk to us now.
No,
Tell us.
The crucible of fire. It wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
Because number one, we were two different people. Two
different cultures,
two
different
cultures,
worlds,
two different
backgrounds.
Two different backgrounds. I was the last, remember, and I had been taken care of by my siblings, my parents. He was not the first, but he's the first boy.
Yeah.
And in Nigeria, once you are the first son, you are the first, as far as we're concerned.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And in
so everything is...
Oh, yes. You need to step up.
It's on you, yeah.
And just the kind of family he came from, they were really big on that. Like, you are the first son. So he learns to step up really early. So he thinks differently about situations from the way I thought. I was more soft and I am more of an adventurer. I'm more of a, I'm into setting, but he's like, I beg, life is too, let's get this thing,
Yeah.
So that played a role in terms of our differences in marriage. And then in the way that, even like communication, I'm very much of a communicator. So his own love language is works of service. Mine is quality time.
Okay.
So for me, it was all about, can we just sit? Let's just sit for, 5 hours together. Let's just, talk about it. Like, talk about what? Please, hurry up. I'm moving, And I'm just like, can you be more gentle?
Slow down,
can you be more like, can you just, so for the longest time, we didn't understand each other, Plus, it didn't make it any easier that, remember, I'd spent years cultivating myself in the spirit, in revelation, in the prophetic and all of that. So there were just many things that didn't sit right with him in terms of, I'm just like, oh yeah, I know that this is like, how can you can't? I'm like, yeah. So for me, it was the first time when I was with somebody who I felt didn't appreciate the way my gift brought benefit to their personal life. People appreciated my gift and how it was beneficial to them in their personal life. But it was reading him off wrongly, And I'm like, okay, what's the problem? And it took me years to realize that a man wants to lead. A man wants to be the one that knows. A man wants to, don't come up here telling him, I had a dream that this, and this is what you should do. So here are the 5 instructions God, and I'm like,
do ABC.
Yeah. And I was just like, it is what it is. And so over time, I had to learn to kind of like reframe, reshape, and just basically understand how to represent myself as a wife, not as a pastor, not as a minister, as a lady, and then also, remember, like I said, in Ghana, I died. Yes.
There was no more easy.
Yes. Yeah. So there were many things like, he's like, oh, let's go out for a drink. Let's go for this person's birthday. Let's go for, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like this. I'm looking around. I'm like, Holy Ghost fire. You are all going to burn in the fires of hell. Just look at this one over there. Look at that one. Look at how this one's dress is tight. Where I'm sitting in my self-righteousness. I'm looking at all his friends and everybody, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, how?
And I didn't understand how to balance things. And so I was coming from Ghana that was more conservative. Nigeria was loud. And I'd been away from Nigeria for years. And I had been steeped in the Christianity in the Ghanaian community. And so the way I was when I came back was just like, I couldn't understand. Nigeria was too loud for me. Everybody was too wild, And then the church we're going to was all about like, your Ferragamo handbag, your Louis Vuitton shoes, your this, like that church.
Christian Dior.
Hey, Lekana Masa. Everybody.
Dolce
So,
and Gabbana.
look.
Like, you don't just walk in.
Lady Bishop.
Yes.
So I would sit in church and I'm like, what is this? You know, so I struggled.
Everyone is branded.
Everything was branded. Everyone was branded. Which, by the way, I later became the resident pastor of that church. So,
Lord have mercy. Mercy, Lord.
I later became, by the time I was 28,
Yeah.
I became 29, I became the resident pastor
Of that church.
of the church, of which that's another story because the average age of people in the church was 40. So that pulled out something else again in me.
Yeah.
In learning to lead people who were much older, more qualified. People in the church were like bank MDs, CEOs, owner of the like biggest fashion boutique line. Like everybody that was somebody was in
there.
that church. And here was I, this little girl coming from Ghana. I'd only worked for 1 year. And I'm like, what is this? But that pastor, Dr. Tony Rapu, he taught me almost everything I know about the apostolic. Wow. You know, he trained me, he grew me. I mean, while I was there, I met everybody. And like everybody, while I was resident pastor, from Miles Monroe, Dr. Sinatrim, to the Busmark, like everybody that was somebody.
Came there.
Yeah, came there. And I was arrested. I hosted them. And I was so young, you know. And many of them would look at me like, who is this girl? Like, how is it? How
She's a senior pastor.
Yes, how is she the one, you know, leading this church? But they all left me with like strong words of counsel for the future. And they would tell me, God is going to use you mightily. You know, this is what you should look out for. This is how you should not be when you get there. You know, all of them.
Wow.
You know, so, but for marriage, I mean, my husband acts of service, that's his language.
Yeah.
So he does that for everybody. So there were many people, I had to fight many women because there was the natural thing of, nice guy, you know, and then somebody's calling at, you know, 12 a.m., Bobby, my tire just burst and I'm on the beach. I'm like, don't fire your tire, fire your car. My friend will call somebody else. This is what I'm calling my husband because I mean, get out there. You know, so, and for him, he could not understand, like, I'm just helping people. What's your problem?
No, we are not helping those ones.
Yes.
Yes.
So I had to deal with a lot of
to deal with that.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yes.
You know, and for me, I could not understand it. I was like, why are these Lagos girls so vicious?
Yeah.
Like, I'm married.
Why would you call a married man to come and fix your tires at midnight?
Do you get? Why don't you just leave me and my married self and married husband alone? So I turned FBI agents. I turned CIA agents. You know, I then understood how to hack phones, how to hack.
You turned into...
Look, I started using the gift of the spirit for all kinds of investigative purposes.
Of course.
Until the Lord said to me, Issy, won't you rest?
You learned the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
CIA.
How to, from a distance, I can spot 654. That's right, 221. I'll meet the phone at midnight. What am I looking for? What am I looking for?
I'll meet the phone at midnight.
Oh, yes. I learned to see in the dark. And then to turn off all the lights, remove the lights from the phone, but I can still see it. And one day the Holy Spirit said to me, great woman of God. What are you looking for? In all your findings, what have you found? When are you going to stop your search? And one day God said to me, so if you did find something, what are you going to do? I was like, I cannot take it. And God said, you will not take it. Are you really not going to take it? He said, what do you think your responsibility is? Is it to amplify the weaknesses and the possibilities of failure, or to, through prayer and warfare, make sure that the devil does not have an upper hand in his life? And so God said to me, what kind of woman are you going to be? Who do you want to be? And I think for me, that was the day of my turnaround. And I said to myself, I said, you know what? We're going to do this. And I'm going to do it differently. And I'm not going to war from the place of the flesh. I'm not going to battle for this marriage from the place of multiple conversations. I said, because the person does not understand what I'm fighting. Because as far as it's concerned, I'm not doing anything. But for me, I felt like there are just so many factors. So I said to myself, Issy, stop. Stop working in the flesh. Step into the spirit. And that was when I started learning how to rebuild my home from the spirit. And that was when God started speaking to me about the multiple spiritual complexities between his house, my house. I started learning about altars. I started learning about spiritual trade. I started asking questions and understanding our cycles and our seasons, and I realized that this even has nothing to do with him or me, as it were. We are just players in a story that began before we were both born. And so I was like, what kind of woman am I going to be?
Hey!
And that was where it changed for me. That's where it changed. So,
do you know how many women right now you're delivering that are held in FBI, CIA? There are many. The phone, they're like this at night. They can't sleep. The one eye is like this. The husband simply asleep. One eye is like the other one is
you're
like this.
learning to look in two directions.
You can even look in both directions to see. 251, 542. You catch all the passwords.
Yes. Hey. No. This.
And women, FBI has nothing on a woman.
What?
No, they don't have nothing.
What? All those training they are doing is
they are
rubbish.
Joking. Come and ask a woman how to FBI properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because if you want a number, you will find.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Whoa.
Uh-huh.
So now there are so many you're delivering because they're in that situation right now.
Yeah.
Of just checking it.
Yeah.
So you're saying, step back.
Yeah.
And begin to pray.
Yeah.
Like honestly pray for your marriage.
Yes. Because Satan just... And I found out that one of the things that limits women the most in their lives and their callings is actually their marriage, which is crazy. Which should be the reverse.
Yeah.
Your marriage should be a place of empowerment. Your marriage should be a place of strength. And then many women are waiting for their husbands to be in a certain way or offer a certain kind of security before they will do what God has called them to do. And that's not what God expects. As a matter of fact, it's actually one of the operations of the curse. They come out of the garden and God is like, woman, your desire shall be for the man only and he shall rule over you. It wasn't the original plan. It's actually a broken state when your entire emotion, your entire desire and your will for life and living is coming from the man and what the man does. The man, on the other hand, is trying to figure out himself. He's growing. He's learning to deal with his struggles. Right. He's learning to become a better person. He's trying to understand all of those things. And you are waiting for his perfection before you enter the perfect will of God. You're going to die without fulfilling purpose. So I had to get to the point where I realized that, he is who he is. And he's going to be who he will become by the hand of God. I cannot wait for his future to determine my present. I can partner with God to help his future come to pass, but I'm not going to wait for his future to determine my present. And this is in every aspect of life. From maybe the way he speaks, the way he talks, the way he acts, the way he decides, or the way he sees things, or the way we plan, or the way he does business. Like, there's no perfection. And who even says to me that I am perfect either? I wasn't perfect either. So I had all these expectations that were being fueled by the flames of hell. And Satan is like, it must be this way. If it's not this way, then you are not a happy woman. You are not in a happy marriage if he doesn't talk this way. And then I had to get to a point where I was like, Issy, you need to stop. And I started to pray. And I'm like, God, expand me. Give me the capacity to bear the one that I'm in covenant with. And help me to understand how to engage with him and pull down every standard that I had upheld from where I was coming from. That is not necessarily what you have preordained for the marriage you've given
Those
to me.
expectations that can
Yes.
never be reached. They can
Yes.
never be attained.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to do all that work. And I also had to ask myself, how many of my fears are truly mine? Because after a while, I realized I was carrying over traumas from my mother, fears from my grandmother, pain from my sisters. And I was living with a mindset that did not necessarily have anything to do with what he was doing in the moment. It had everything to do with what I was afraid he was going to do. Not even from my experience, but what was handed down to me as culture. So God had to teach me how to break all of that. And the Lord said to me, this marriage is going to be who you become. Not what you want it to be, but who you become. So I had to become for me to birth the kind of marriage I wanted to see. Yeah.
Whoa. So God began to work on you.
Oh, yeah.
To change your mindset.
Oh, yes.
To not live in fear.
Yeah.
In these expectations that were beyond.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you're expecting a perfect human being.
Yeah.
Which is impossible.
Yeah.
To stop looking out for what only God could give you.
Yes.
Through a man.
Yes.
To start looking to God.
Yes.
For, oh my, that
Yes.
is so powerful.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. So it began to change you first.
Yes, it began to change me. And I started to live out purpose irrespective of the vulnerabilities I was experiencing at home. So I started to learn not to compromise on mission because of a lack of passion. I started to learn how to speak truth, even when I felt like some aspects of my life were in a lie of some sort. When I say a lie, they were not yet in the perfect picture of the truth that I was declaring. I started to learn how to live in parallel worlds, but understanding that God is the perfect balance in the parallel. He's the God of light and darkness, good and evil, Esau and Jacob. And so I started understanding that when you grow up in godliness, you learn how to balance both complexities and differences. Yeah. So perfection is not that everything aligns in oneness and seamlessness. Perfection is that you learn the balance in the midst of differences. So I started to learn that. And I started to learn patience and faith in terms of the Bible speaks about those who through faith and patience have apprehended. And so I started to understand that God calls us to apprehend a future and to pursue a picture. Yeah. And is not a God of the picture now, the perfection now, but we are called to pursue. And it's in the pursuing the perfect picture that we are built up and we are made into the people we are called to be. I started to learn wisdom. And I married a man who has elder sisters, and they're all much older than me, from a family with a strong tie. Initially, I'm like, no, your sisters, you're this, and I spent years being unhappy. And after I started to learn that, no, this man was who he was for 31 years. Yeah. He had 31 years of being formed in a particular image and mindset and living with these people. Yeah. You are not going to, in your pretty face and fine leg in 2 years, make him who you want him to be. Yeah. Do you understand? So I had to understand that I'm the late comer in the story of his life. I'm the one that just appeared on the scene. And it's going to be even deceptive and borderline witchcraft if I felt like all of a sudden he should just change and become that I wanted him to be. He hadn't had time to trust me, to know that he could depend on me. He could depend on his family and his friends. He's known them for years, but I had to learn to win his trust. I had to learn to develop through time, become his comfort zone and his place of rest. That was going to take time. These were things that I didn't understand initially. And I feel like many women put themselves and they vex their righteous souls and they go through torment trying to achieve in 1 year or 2 years what should realistically take maybe 15 years to accomplish. Oh, man. Oh, man.
In 1 or 2, they want to become this perfect couple that have not done anything to work on themselves. Like you're talking about, you're 26, is 31, that is 50-something years of history.
Yes.
And you want to turn it around in a minute.
It can't happen.
It doesn't work. You have your history, he has his history. Yeah. I mean, bringing that together and changing it in a nutshell is a lie.
It's a lie.
So you see, you're uprooting a lot of issues in marriages right now. That's
Praise God.
amazing. So tell me, so when did you start? Let's get to children now.
Okay. So got married. I think first month after I got married, I got pregnant. Actually.
Wow.
Yes. So
In the first month?
Yes, in the first month.
Okay.
So I got married in December. I got married 5th, 6th of December, traditional 5th, white wedding 6th. By January, I was pregnant. So I found out that, first time I'm like, this is the reward of the righteous. Keep yourself and God will give you what you need. Carried the pregnancy for, I think, 3 months. It was about 10 weeks and I lost it,
Did you do anything? Like, you just lost it?
I lost it. I didn't do anything. So I had actually started bleeding. And then I went for a cousin's wedding. And while I was on the road to the wedding, I was feeling like all this pain in my stomach. And I was like, oh my God, I know I'm going to lose. I knew I was losing the baby. But I just kept trusting God, went through the wedding, And then the day after that, the pain was so bad. And I was kept thinking, is it because I went for the wedding? Is it, but by the time I went to the hospital, I was like, oh no, you're having a miscarriage, And for me, it kind of scarred me because I was like, wait a minute, I've served the Lord. Like from when that 18 years, God, I want to serve you. I've waited for you, God, and I kind of felt like mine was going to be like this perfect story, and then I could testify and tell people, when you do this, this is what will happen. And I was like, how do I lose a child? But I'm one of those bounce back quickly kind of people, so I bounced back. I was like, yeah, I got pregnant if I can get pregnant again. That was waiting another year before I got pregnant again. I got pregnant again and I lost it again after like 6 weeks. I found out I was pregnant and then 2 weeks after that, I lost it, So I was like, what is going on?
Right.
So at this point, I'm like thinking about myself. I'm thinking, don't I have the ability to carry children? Why? What's the problem? And then I got pregnant again.
The third time now?
Yes. And I think this was like after like 2.5 years, and then I lost it again at like 8 weeks, 7 weeks or so.
So all the time, it's getting, like you're carrying it longer,
Yes.
but losing. Carrying it longer, but losing.
Yeah.
What is Bobby saying at this time?
Yeah, he's just like, my husband is very much like very non-reactive kind of person. He's like, oh yeah, okay, it's okay. Yeah, it's happened now, we'll be fine. That's his kind of like, he's just like, oh yeah, it's happened, we'll be fine. So come again. And then the Lord blessed us with a child after 4 years, and after that, waited another 7 years.
So you got one after another 4 years?
Yes.
So you got a baby?
Yes. Yeah. And then waited 7 years for my second child, Judah.
Yeah.
And of course, all of this is IVFs going on, multiple IVFs. And, but I'm hoping that, okay, yes. And then I wasn't getting pregnant naturally anymore.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Oh, after the 3?
Yes, I didn't get pregnant naturally anymore. So by the time I'm waiting for Judah, I'm pastoring churches, I'm doing all of these things, praying for people, doing my ministry. And God had told me, you're going to have another child.
Yeah.
And then God said to me, 2018, you're going to get pregnant in 2019. And he says, you have the baby in 2020.
Yeah.
And he says, when the baby is born, I will release the mantle of Deborah over you and over the church. So I was like, what kind of word is this? If he didn't give it to me personally, I would have thought, what's this prophet saying?
Yeah.
So I wrote it down. I was like, okay, 2019. Yes. I was like, 2019, okay. And he said to me, but note, you will not get pregnant naturally, because you've heard this word now, you're probably thinking, yay. Tomorrow. He said, yes. He said, you're going to have to do an IVF. And I said, God, why? And he said to me, there are so many complexities involved in you having a child. And he said, in the spirit realm, there are many things that have been raised, and many negotiations that have been made on certain tables. He said, for you to get pregnant naturally, there's a long route of spiritual warfare you would take. He said, and you're not ready for it. He said, you're going to have to bypass the regular process to get a child. That's what God said to me, you know. And mind you, all the times when I was getting pregnant and losing them, I would have like attacks at night, you know, where I would like see like spiritual entities in the form of certain, you know, figures and people, like hitting my stomach, fighting me, you know, stuff like that. So I knew it was a lot of warfare, but I just couldn't understand, what is this?
Yeah.
Plus, I wasn't a baby in the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't a child. You know, I had been doing ministry for years. I'd been serving God, praying, doing spiritual warfare. And so I was like, what is this thing that I can't shake off? Why am I being attacked? So by the time God spoke to me in 2018 and saying to me that, you know, there's a lot involved. You can't deal with it right now. You know, he said, but you need to have a child in 2020. So we're going to bypass the regular routes to give you a baby. So I was like, okay, Lord, let's do it. Where do I go? So he told me certain people. He told me one of my friends, T.Y. Bello. He told me another person, Pastor Mildred Okonkwo.
Yes.
And he said, speak to these two people. He said, wherever Mildred and T.Y. tell you to go to, that's where you should go to. So I was like, and at that time, I wasn't even close to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, why am I going to call these two random people? Anyway, so I called Pastor Major. I was like, hey, Pastor Major. I was like, God said I should ask you where I should go to. I want to do an IVF. She was like, Pastor AC, there's this clinic. You must go to Dr. Bero. I was like, okay, thank you. And then I called TY.
Yeah.
I was like, TY Bero, TY, how far? God said, she's like, oh my God, you wanna do an IVF? Oh my God. She's like, you must go to this clinic. And it's the same place that both of them asked me
Two
to go
different
to.
people.
Two different people. They both said, go to this same place.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I'm on the phone with TY. She was like, PIB going now. Don't even waste any time. I said, hey, I was just driving. She said, no, just go to Dr. Beru. So I drove straight to the clinic, long and short of the story. Amazing woman. And the clinic is actually, she's born again. They pray over their processes, ask the Lord to tell us which one should we use for each person. Like, she's very detailed. So I go there and we start the entire process. And to her amazement, you know, what should have taken like 1 month to fertilize, have the embryo, the eggs, fertilize the eggs, put it back as embryos. I was not producing egg. So she's like, Pastor, I don't know what the problem is. So by now, at this stage of taking these injections, you should have, you know. So she was like, okay, let's start again. We start another protocol again. We go again. We kept, at every point where we're like, okay, yes, we're there. They'll not say, we just realized that there are polyps in your womb. We did not see it all these months. Where's it coming from? After we'll go again. We just realized, like, everything just
there was a hindrance. Everything.
So it took 6.5 months to finally get me to the point where my body produced eggs. And she was like, let's extract it. So we went, extracted the eggs, did extraction. And this woman came into the room afterwards. She's like, Pastor. I said, how far? She said, well, we took the egg. You know, I was like, egg. I was like, is it not eggs we're supposed to have?
Yes.
She said, sorry, you had only one.
You had one.
I said, what? After 6 months? I said, how can I have one egg? She's like, this is an amazement, you know. She said, yes, when we scanned, we saw like 3 or 4. Even that was low. Actually, even that was low.
The 3 and 4.
You know, because like women will have, some people 12, some people have 24. I have a friend that had 30 self, you know. And I was like, what is this? So she said, we saw 3 or 4. She said, but by the time we brought it out, it wasn't viable. It's just only one. That was a viable egg, you know. So she was like, you know, what do? We will not advise you to go on with one, because normally you need to have like, you know, 7, they can fertilize it, then maybe 4 will take, and then maybe they put 3 into you, and then 1 will stay for odds and chances, you know. So she's like, with 1, It's like we're
It's
wasting
hard.
money.
Yeah.
You know. So she said, I would advise you use a donor eggs, you know. So we get my husband on the phone. I was open to the donor eggs. I was just like, okay. My husband was in London at that time, and he was like, you say, no, we're not using donor eggs. So the doctor was like, no, you have to understand it medically. He said, no, if it is not her DNA, then let's rest. He said, we're not using the donor eggs. And so the doctor was like, do you understand what you are saying?
Yeah.
That we should use just this one. This one may not fertilize. This one may not get to embryo. This one may not stay in her womb. He said, let's use the one.
He said we use it.
He said, we'll use that one. Let's use the one. So that was how we used the one egg.
Yeah.
And to the glory of God, they called me. They were like, in fact, when they took the egg, that day I went back home. I cried, Lady Bishop. I wept. And over the years, I wasn't one of those weeping, waiting mothers.
Yeah.
No. You know, I was just like, God is going to do it.
Yeah.
You know. But this one, no, I wept. And I wept because I was like, God, Hamba. Everything does not need to be hard in my life now. You know, I was like, also, am I not a woman?
Yeah.
How am I not able to
Even one.
you know, it's one thing if you are trying naturally, you are not taking, the world can say, hey, God's time. But now they've entered the womb.
Yes.
To go and bring the egg. It's only one you have to give. I was like, God, this is kind of shameful. You know, I was like, why, Lord?
Me that serves you and loves you.
So while I was there crying, I remember saying to God, I was like, God, please, I've taken a lot from you and I'm still standing. I was like, but this one, I don't know how I'm going to bear it. And I said, God, please just don't break my heart. I can't take it. And as soon as I said it, my phone starts to ring. It's one of my spiritual fathers, Pastor Chris Delvan. And he calls me and he's like, hey, woman of God. He likes to joke a lot. I was like, oh, Papa, please, I'm not. He said, what's wrong with you? I said, he said, look, I was just about to minister. Can you hear the keyboards, the drums? He said, but God stopped me at the door of the church. And he said, call my daughter now. I was like, okay, what is it? He said, God said I should say to you, he will never break your heart. And as soon as he said it, I started to cry. He was like, why are you crying? That's good news. I was like, I just told him not to break my heart. He was like, okay, so that's good. Why are you crying? I was like, you don't understand. I've gone through so much. I said, today was the egg extraction. They got only one egg. I was just talking. He said, what are you talking about? He said, are you starting a poultry? What I'm hearing is egg. So I said to him, I was like, I'm not starting a poultry. Please stop joking, Pastor Chris. So, he said, so explain yourself. And then I explained to him. He said, so why is it a problem? You have one.
Yeah.
He said, you have one.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem? I said, no, the way the process works, you know, you know, the odds are very, with the odds. And he said to me, he said, Issy, how many eggs did it take to make Jesus? And I said, what? He said, how many eggs did it take to make Jesus? I was like, it was one, so it must have been one egg. He says, why do you need more than one to make a child? I said, no, the odds now, if one does not take, he said, Issy, with God, there are no odds. He gave you a word, and he said to you, this year you would have a child. Now you have one egg. He doesn't need two to make his word come to pass. One is enough for God. He says, stop crying. Stop crying. You're a woman of faith. Have faith in God. Get up. I was like, okay, sir. He said, begin to pray in the Holy Ghost. Pray with me now. I said, pray. After I pray, he said, yes, get up and go. I was to have a meeting downstairs. So people were worshiping downstairs in my house. They didn't know I was crying upstairs. He said, go take your meeting. I said, okay. Now that you've hung up, let me just still pray a little. He said, Issy, don't pray again.
Go.
Tell God. Chris Delvan said you should not pray about this matter anymore. Go and take your meeting. He said, it's done. So I got up. 3 days later, they called me from the hospital. The doctor was screaming. She was like, Pastor Issy, our egg has turned to an embryo. We have one embryo. Come. So ran to the hospital.
Yeah.
Look, doctor, the drama. In going to the hospital, my driver got into a fight. Him and the driver of the other car bleeding. I was just there, I just carried my phone.
Yes.
I said, where is Uber? Because I will not allow
This
myself to be
circus
distracted.
is not
Oh,
yours.
No.
It's not part of your story.
I will not be distracted. There's a future I'm trying to apprehend. This is a distraction.
Yes.
And they had told me, come to the hospital calm.
Yeah.
They told me, don't make sure you are calm because your womb needs to be able to take the egg. And here they are fighting.
Drama.
How we blow you, how we breathe. I said, bam. This is not for me. So I was like, okay,
So and they're being as dramatic as Nigerians.
Look. And you know Nigerians, we fight with our words before we do the physical fight. You shout next thing, boom, 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 blood everywhere. I said, Jesus, I'm leaving this place. So I'm there trying to book an Uber. And then my husband was there. I said, what are you doing? I said, we have to leave here.
Yeah.
This thing that is going on is from the pits of hell. Also, as I leave it, let me solve it. He comes out from the car. He even gets more angry at the person in the other car because the person is trying to insult him. He gets angrier. Hey! At this point, husband and driver, I said, I will leave these two people here. These two.
I will get Uber.
I'm booking an Uber, leaving both of them. You know. So while I'm doing that, an old woman comes to my car and she says to me, my daughter, now your husband be that? I said, yes. They are trying to sort out this matter. She said, oh, okay. She said, me, I want to come out for here. I want to live here, you know. And she said, will you people carry me in your car? I said, yes. She said, okay, I can get him to come to the car. If I get him to come to the car, will you give me a ride? I said, yes, ma'am. Yes, mama, I will give you a ride now. She said, no wahala. That's how she walked up to him. Now, when I think about it, I believe that woman was an angel because she had no reason. The place where she came to my car was in the middle of Ozumba Mbadiwe, Lagos. Nobody treks on that stretch of the road. You are either in a bus or a car. It's an expressway. Like you are not walking.
Yeah.
So our car is in the middle of the road. All of this commotion is going on.
And she's walking.
This old woman comes like this with her leg to my car and says, I'm like, it didn't make any sense. Where are you coming from? But at that time, it didn't dawn on me. So I said, yes. She said, okay, no problem. I'll go get her. So she walks to my husband and holds his hand. And she's like, my son, don't be now you're supposed to fight. She said, this is not the time for you to quarrel. Come, enter the car. Your wife is waiting for you. And my husband just mellows.
And he comes to the car.
And comes to the car and tells the driver, Valentine is okay, get in, let's go. And that's how we got in.
Did you give her a ride?
We gave her a ride. And then when we got to another place that typically is not where you should stop, she's like, let me drop here. So I was like, oh, mama, where would you go from here? Like, we can. She said, no worry. I'm just here. I said, no, ma, we can just. She said, no worry. You people go. And she gets down from the car. It took me a while later to consider that was God's intervention.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, that was God's intervention. Right. We were being stopped right there and all kinds of things. It's like everything just fled. Everybody's angry. Anyway, we get to the hospital.
Yeah.
The doctor is like, okay, let's do this. We get into the room and they put in the eggs, the egg, no eggs, one. And while we are there, she says, I don't think we should leave this room without praying. So she told all the nurses and my husband, while I'm still lying on the bed, they all hold their hands surrounding me and they start to blast in tongues. And the doctor is praying and she's like, God, we thank you for this son. We thank you because unto us a child is given, a son is born. This one, so this shall carry your government. He shall be this. She starts to just pray and prophesy.
Yeah.
And I'm crying like a child. Throughout that period, I don't know what was wrong with me. I didn't have strength. I was just crying. Maybe it's all the hormones I'd been taking. So I'm laying on the bed weeping. And so they pray, we go home. They say, come back in 2 weeks' time. The night before we had to go and do the test to prove that I was pregnant, I slept and I had a dream. And in that dream, I'm in a car, and there's an old man sitting in front, and my husband are behind, and another older man driving the car. And this old man who is sitting here turns back and looks at me, and he says, Isi, we hear you are pregnant. And so I heard my smile, I was like, yes, I'm pregnant in Jesus' name. He laughed. He said, you pregnant? And then he brought out something that looked like a little vial. And he looked at it, he said, look, you see here? Now here we don't lock waiting you need to carry belle. Basically, this is where we've locked what you need to get pregnant. He said, if we don't release it, you and your husband can never have a child. He said, that baby will not stay. He said, you know, go fit stay. He was laughing. This older man also, that is much, so the one driving looked like 120. He was old. I was like,
Yeah.
And then this other one too old. Two of them started laughing. And so in the dream, I'm praying. I'm like, it will not, I will not lose this baby in the name of Jesus. This baby will stay. You know, and I woke up. Of course, with maturity, I understood that those were like gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Spiritual gatekeepers over family lines, you know, from either side. And declaring that
not.
I will not. So I woke up, and as soon as I woke up, I started crying. And I was just like, they have come again. I was like, God, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of warfare. I was wailing on my bed. I said, I'm going to lose this one again.
Hey.
I was crying. And as I was crying, the next day I heard God say, what are you doing? He said, Isi, wipe your tears and go to war. As in, he did not come to console me. He came that day as a general. Rebuked me. He was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He said, wipe your tears and go to war. And as soon as I was like, I started praying. My husband woke up. I was like, what? I said, no, they will not take this one. They will not take this one. In the name of Jesus. I was praying. I held my womb. I said, baby, you will stay in the name of Jesus. Prayed. Morning, dressed up quickly, went to the hospital, went to the clinic. They took my blood, did the tests. And the doctor was like, Pastor, you are so pregnant. I was like, what's the meaning of so pregnant? Which one is so pregnant? She said, we just needed HCG level of, I think maybe like 60 or something. Yours is over 200. She was like, look, your HCG levels, you are very pregnant. Happy celebration. We did small Thanksgiving in the clinic.
Yes.
Went back. Lady Bishop, after that, every other week, I was in the hospital. I started bleeding. I would bleed. I started having early contractions from like 8 weeks.
Hey.
I would see
8 weeks.
Yes.
8 weeks.
Yes.
Apostle.
It will feel as if I'm about to have that pain, my stomach will start again. Hey, hospital, they'll say, this girl is having contractions. They'll scan it. But the doctors were confused. How? Why? Then sometimes I would sleep. One time I was in the hospital for bleeding. While I was there, I slept, and a man came with a dog into the room, and he said, look at you. You are still trying to keep this child. Release the dog. He just released the dog. The dog jumped on me. I started clawing on my stomach, and I jumped up I started clawing on my stomach. I thought I woke up, and I jumped up, and I was crying. I was like, in the name of Jesus, I was praying. And then my water broke, in the dream. I thought I had woken up.
Yeah.
So it was like a dream in a dream.
Yeah.
So I woke up and my water broke. And I was like, my water has broken. Called the doctor. And then I now really woke up. And I realized my water had not broken, but I was in the hospital. I started praying again. I had teams of people praying with me, people in my ministry. But after that, the week after, my water did break. And it broke at 23 weeks.
23.
Yes, 23
Jesus.
weeks. And I remember I didn't even know my water had broken, first of all. So I went to the hospital just to get documentation because I wanted to travel to Canada quickly so that they could start taking care of me there till I was 40 weeks. So I went to the hospital and the doctor was like, now that you're here for your papers, why don't we just do a scan? So I was like, doctor, no need. I was just in the hospital last week.
Yeah.
You were the one that discharged me. I'm fine. We don't need a scan. He said, no, you are here. We might as well. So we did a scan. He's like, I said, doctor, what is it now? I just started crying again. I said, what is it again? He said, when did you break your water? I said, what do you mean? Is it not water? If water pour, you will know now. I said, I did not break my water. He said, but look at your scan. And he said, look, all here is supposed to be filled with amniotic fluid. It's all gone. He said, you have just like 10% of amniotic fluid left.
Hey.
And I was like, this is not possible. I didn't leak nothing. He said, well, I'm so sorry. I remember going back into his office from the scan room. Lady Bishop, my whole body was shaking. Like, I was like this. My body was shaking. I was in fear. I sat in front of him. I was shaking. And he said, I'm so sorry. You know, we did all we could. You know, we tried.
Wow. Amen. And that is Woman Without Limits. Your life will never, ever be the same again.
So by the time I got there, she brought a wheelchair. She said, Pastor, sit down, sit down. I said, why, I can't walk. She said, sit down. Do you want to lose the small water we have left? She now said, pretend as if you are dying. I said, I should do what? I said, Dr. Biro, you know I don't know how to pretend. I can't. She said, we have to, so that they will leave you, they will allow you check-in. She said, because I told them that you are. I said, but Dr. B, as I was arguing with her, the Lord spoke to me again. He said to me, Issy, we're going to do it.
Do as she says.
He said, you're going to appear weak. And he reminded me, he said, remember David? Yeah. When David was running away, he said he acted like a madman.
Yes.
He said, there's a time to act. She said, God said to me, you're going to pretend. So that's how I sat like this in the wheelchair. She wheeled me there. She said, look at how is it? You know, they said, so who is this person?
How did you sit? Sure,
I just did like this. I did as if I had mini stroke on the chair.